Welcome back to the Cats Coverage Basketball Podcast, where we're back. I'm actually not in Cats Coverage headquarters this time. I'm at home. Michael's at the studio. Tim's rocking the thing behind the scenes, and we're here to recap the Champions Classic. I did not get to make it. No one from Cats Coverage did, but Michael was there in attendance doing his thing. Michael, how was your takeaway from your experience in Chicago?
Man, the atmosphere was great. I actually covered it when I was a student at Michigan State, covering Michigan State. Uh, I think my senior year, it was there in Chicago at the United Center. So that was the second time I've done it there, which was cool. Great atmosphere. I mean, I like it better than Indy, anyways. I think it's a better arena, and just doing it in Chicago just kind of feels cooler. And it was a great atmosphere, man. It was packed. It was loud for both games, as it always is. But I think the Cats fans were really loud the entire game because not only were they cheering on the Cats, they're booing Hunter Dickinson like the entire time. Anytime he touches the ball, which I thought was funny. I expected it, but I was surprised at like how loud they actually were. And it was a good atmosphere, man. Great game. All 40 minutes were electric. At halftime, I remember walking back to the meeting room. I'm like, man, this is an amazing game. I'm happy. Like I'm just a college basketball fan, and I know the Cats didn't make it out on top, but they showed up. They showed up in their first big moment of the season. Young team taking on an experienced Kansas team. You have no 7-footers. All three of your 7-footers are out, and you're going up against the best 7-footer, one of the best big men in the country, in Dickinson, and the rest of the team showed up. So you got to give them credit, despite the loss. They could have just went out there and got smoked. I told you last week when we did the pod, I was like, don't be surprised if Hunter puts 30 on your head or 28. He ends up getting 27. So I didn't think he had 22 rebounds in him as well.
Yeah.
So that dude was a man amongst boys a little bit, but a great game from the Cats too.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because, well, Kentucky almost got Hunter Dickinson in the summer. And I think fans really wanted him. I don't think it was just a minor thing. I think fans really wanted him. And then he picks Kansas over Kentucky. And now you got to kind of flip the narrative of like hating him. And it wasn't hard to hate him. We can get in his post game comments too. But it's kind of weird. We got to see that. I think he might maybe be college basketball's villain this year. Who knows? We saw him flopping a bunch, and don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have him on this team, but seeing him in another jersey, the way he plays, it would have been cool for us if he played the way he did on our team because we can bypass a lot of his flaws and stuff that we want to pick at. But when we see him on another team, I'm ready to go all in on him. He torched Kentucky. I think it was like 27 points, 21, 22 rebounds. So he's at 20 and 20 plus. A monster of a game completely. We knew going in that was going to be the emphasis of Kansas's offense. Without our big men, you got Trey Mitchell down there to hold the ground. He had help from a dude, the arrow, which both of them, I thought they played better than I thought they were going to. I just thought Trey Mitchell was going to get exposed down there, and he kind of did, but he still held his own. He played better than I thought, so I was impressed with him. I think we should also talk about a dude, the arrow. I mean, he was down there helping him at the 4 position, got his first career double-double. I think he had like 13 and 9 at halftime. Cal brought him and Reed Shepherd to the post-game press conference to kind of highlight, the best 2 players that they had. Dude, the arrow was just kind of, he was happy to be there, but you could tell the loss was upsetting him too. So the dude, the arrow, I mean, he just had putback dunk after dunk. He had rebounds. He was still on the ball. He plays great defense for his, playing not in a position that he's not used to. What's your thoughts on how we handled Hunter Dickinson outside of his, pretty nice stat line? We did what we could.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it in our earlier pods and really like the first pod of the season, kind of previewing the team and previewing each player. And with Adu, we were like, okay, well, what's his position and, what's his role? And it kind of felt like now through these first few games, he kind of has like a similar position as Justin Edwards. And I know we're going to get into his bad night in a little bit, but for Adu, it's kind of like, okay, well, neither of those guys, Edwards and Theo can really like score reliably, but Adu, man, he's crashing. I mean, he gets up, he can jump higher than anybody in the gym, and he was getting up for those putback dunks, like you mentioned. He was also trying like to sky up and get rebounds over Hunter Dickinson, which you're not going to do a little bit. And there were a couple fouls because of that, which wasn't a huge deal. They did get in the bonus early, but free throws weren't really a big aspect in this game. Anyways, it's just Kansas was just like getting anything they wanted to in the paint, especially in the second half, right after Kentucky got its biggest lead of the game, which I think was 14, like
That's it.
around 16 minutes left. Um, Kansas dominated the paint. I think they ended up with like 42, 44 points in the paint for the whole game. But it felt like that moment in the second half, they got anything they wanted. I mean, the rim was theirs, the paint was theirs. Like, put that Jayhawk logo on it. It was theirs. And UK had no response down low because Trey, bless his heart, he played 39 minutes. It's like the guy's going to get tired. And he did. He's a good player, but he just, like their best lineup is probably going to be with Trey at the small ball five at the end of games or whatever the case may be. But it can't be the whole game. And that's why you just need to get one of these 7-footers back, Bradshaw preferably, because Ugana and Zonomir could help with, defense a little bit, but Bradshaw could be an extra offensive weapon. We'll see how that all plays out. But at the end of the day, you asked about Adu, and I liked it. 6 offensive boards is huge. I think 2 of those statistically are offensive board, but they were just put back dunks, which was dope. So he's a good player, man, and he earned the right to get those minutes over Justin Edwards, even though they had 31 and 29 minutes. Like Edwards was just a no-show, man, and I like him. I told you about it last week that I like him a lot. I like how fast he is, but he wasn't physical enough, and he shied away from the moment a little bit. DJ did too. Not to say they're scared. I'm not going to say anybody's scared, but you could definitely tell like they just weren't ready for the moment. And like Reed was. Reed came off the bench and he was a baller. He knocked down buckets. Like he made plays on defense. He drove on bigs. He was ready to get to the cup. That dude was ready to play, and Justin Edwards, DJ Wagner just weren't quite ready to play.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I definitely don't think they were scared of the moment for sure, but they didn't perform like they should have. Not that we want, not how we want them to, like they should have. If they're in our starting crew, they're going to be our core pieces of this team throughout the whole rest of the season, and you cannot have that from them in big games, almost in any game, because otherwise it's going to be a bad night unless someone else steps up. But especially in these big games, they've got to be the ones that step up. The offense has got to go through them. They've got to get theirs, and if they don't, if they would have against Kansas, that game was ours. That game would have been won. But with them going, I think there might have been a combined 0 for 10 field goal somewhere right around there. I think they both had 1 point from like free throws or something like that. But that is not an option for a successful team. And I selfishly was a little mad. I made a bet before the game. I picked DJ Wagner to go for more than 10.5 points. I know he hasn't done a whole lot offensive wise outside of one game this year, in the first 2 games that they've had. And I just thought for sure, this game he's going to be a little bit more selfish with the ball. He's going to get more of his touches, kind of force a little bit to get it going because they need him to win this game. And he left with 1 point, I believe. And I was pretty mad, beating myself over that. I just thought for sure that was a lock. I thought I was going to expose the betting apps, but no, that did not happen. But on another note, so Kentucky did lose by 5, 89-84, and I think there are a couple things to point out of how that happened. Like you said, they were up at least 14 at one point, and from there on out, they just did not finish the rest of that game, the last 10 minutes or so. That's an ongoing problem. They've had struggles finishing throughout the last few seasons against big opponents. That was Cal's big message at the end of the game. He's like, the main thing he just kept hitting on out of any other point he had in the postseason or the post game press conference was, I've got to teach this team how to finish. I've got to teach them how to finish through hard games. I think part of that's because they have such a young team. They don't have that experience to know how. I would have hoped that Reeves might have led the way there. But missed shots, things happen, and you end up losing that game when you should have won it. You had a comfortable lead and let that slip. So you can blame it on a lot of things, but I think if you don't take care of business down in crunch time, what do you expect? So Tough loss against a really good team, number one team in the country as of right now. My thoughts, we can get into this if you feel like it. With a Champions Classic, man, I think every year I just got a bad taste about this kind of thing outside of the Maxi against your Michigan State team. Other than that, I think they're 1-6 in their last seven, is what I've heard or what I've seen online. It seems like every year it's a loss, and that feels like we've got a million of them to Kansas. I think we're 2-3 against them in this event. Then we have that one year against Duke where they just exposed Kentucky. I love this event. I like it. It tips off college basketball. It's got the four blue bloods. I don't know if Michigan State's in there. No offense to
Hey
you.
man, hold on a sec. Izzo got one too.
I forget that's your team. So no shade there. But I love that this tips off college basketball. I just, for Kentucky wise, it always gives me a bad feeling in my stomach. I'm never confident in this thing for some reason.
Yeah, I mean that's what 5-8 will do. That's UK's record in this, which is fine. It really doesn't matter when you look at it. If you just look at it from a broad scope and you say, okay, John Calipari recruits freshmen, right? 5-star guys. They're young. They're always a young team. It's the first game of the year, basically second, third game of the year. You'd expect them to probably not have a great record in this thing.
Yeah.
It makes sense. As long as they're figuring it out by the end and you have a better record in March and you're getting to April, right? So November doesn't matter a lot when you're also not producing success in March and April. That's when you start to get nervous, and that's why Cats fans are nervous with Cal. But this team should excite you guys because they got way more talent than any of these recent teams, and we've talked about that on previous pods. But now we saw it against the number one team in the country, and you even got like a Jordan Burks who came in, gave good minutes. I'll tell you what, Trace, like the plus minus, it's probably the most overrated stat in college basketball. And Cal even brought it up in the presser. Like Burks had a good plus or minus. Fine. Adu had a horrible plus minus.
Yeah.
Who cares? Wait, Adu, you could clearly see that Adu Thiero was good to have in the game. When he was on the floor, he gave you great minutes. Doesn't matter what that plus minus is, because all that's telling you is who's on the other side of the floor. When Hunter Dickinson's not in the game and you come in the game, you're going to have a good plus minus. What does that mean? That just means that you're in when the other player's best player is out. Does that mean that you're bad? Right? So like it's a horrible stat. So sorry, that was a random tangent. But I do have another hot take for you.
Okay.
I feel like I get Antonio Reeves is your best player, your best shooter. If you're trying to win a ball game, right, and you see that one of your guys, and just throw out age, one of them is a perfect 3 for 3 from behind the arc. Looked confident all game. Reeves looked confident too, hit some big time shots. To me, it just felt like Reed was pretty comfortable. His shot was looking good. He was stepping into him.
Mm-hmm.
I would have drew it up for Reed. I would have drew up that last play for Reed. I mean, you get Antonio to have two really good looks the play before with like 30 seconds left, whatever.
Mm.
He gets the one on the wing, a good cross court pass from Reed, I think, to Antonio, 3 no good. You get the board. Trey Mitchell, really good baseline pass to Antonio in the corner for that 3 no good. And it's like, this is Antonio Reeves. He's a fantastic shooter. He's your leading scorer, this and that, but one of the best shooters in the country. But when he's not on, it's hard. It's clearly hard for him to break out of those slumps. And he was just kind of in a slump for a little bit. I mean, look at the stats. It just kind of shows you. He was 3 for 17 from 3. He hit that one big 3 after he was chirping with Harris. And they went like nose to nose. And then because Harris hit those 2 threes, and then Antonio hit one right after. That was great. It was like, okay, maybe Antonio can like win this game for you. Missed almost every shot after that outside of like a mid-range. So I don't know. I liked how Reed was shooting the basketball. I know he's a freshman. It's his fourth game. I just would have drew it up for Reed because everybody in the building knows that you're drawing it up for Antonio because he's your
Yeah.
best player. He's best shooter. It's like it's almost too smart to it's like it's what's the expression? Like it's almost too perfect to make sense or whatever the expression is that you want to put in there. You draw it up for Reed, you could get a really good look. Instead, Bill Self, give him credit. They were ready. They defended it really well. And then Antonio, they wanted to get it to him on the wing for a three, doubled. Hunter steps up. I think it was Hunter that stepped up. He went under. Um, and then so Antonio has it. You have Trey and Reed on the other sides of the floor with defenders, but then you have Adu. Hunter was on Adu. Antonio could have just passed it right to Adu, and then you kind of have a little 3-on-2. The court's flipped. You have a little 3-on-2 advantage there because Adu can either drive, and then Hunter's got to crash. So he'll probably foul him if he takes it to the rim, or then you run another action for one of those shooters. Instead, Antonio just throws it over to Trey, and then a weird thing with Reed, and then Reed throws a bad shot, which was a bad shot. But at that point, he probably thought the clock was running out. I had to chuck something up. They could have went for a quick two, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it didn't go in. I thought there's at least an argument to give Reed that last shot there. And yeah, I know Antonio's your closer, whatever. I feel like there's no one on this team has deserved to be the closer. Even though Antonio probably deserves it the most, nobody's like, okay, this guy has to get your last shot. You just got to feel it. And to me, it felt like Reed was 3 for 3 from 3-point range at that point. He probably could have gone 4 for 4. I don't know. That's my take.
So that you made a good point there. With the people I were watching the game with here at home, I was like, yeah, this is Antonio Reeves' shot. Of course you give it to him because he's the guy. Now he's not done nothing to prove, but I was like, he's the guy is likely to hit this on the most on the team. And the people I was with, I was like, what about Reed? He's not missed a 3-pointer tonight. And I was like, that's a good point, but I don't know if I'd give it to him. But then you made the case there for a second. Everybody knows he's going to Reeves. Likely Reeves are one of those guys. I don't think Reed Shepherd is their first pick of who they thought it was going to. So I was completely fine with him giving them that shot. Completely fine. Going back and watching the replay, I saw that he was coming off that pick, and I don't think his feet were set all the way. And he does everything right every single time except for that one play. It was a good I liked him taking the shot, but when he was coming off that pick, his feet were still spinning and it did not create a straight up shot for him. So of course it turned into a bad outcome, which you'd love to have back, but Kentucky, I don't think they should have been in that position anyways. They gave up that late lead and let it close. So as they consecutively have done in big games late in the game. But before we get to our next segment, we're gonna have a hard break. Let's go to our sponsors with Rob real quickly.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners, and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When cross the state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today.
Michael, another thing I wanted to talk about is our guys off the bench. I mean, we seem like we have such a spark off the bench. I'm not sure. I've not gotten to see a whole lot of rest of college basketball, but I'm pretty confident in the pair that we got of the combo of Reed Shepherd, And Rob Dillingham right off the bench from the jump. And we've seen that in the last 3 games, especially in the exhibitions. Those are usually the first guys off the bench. Rob is in that category every single time. He's got to be our 6th, 7th man locked down for sure, unless he was to advance more than that. I think he went for 18 points. I think that was his season high outside of, the blue-white game, which of course doesn't count. I think that was probably 2nd or 3rd on the team for against Kansas. Let's get right into it. What do you think about the Rob Dillingham show? I mean, he kind of got hot there for a second, didn't he?
It was fun, man. It was fun in that arena. And that's what I'm saying, kind of, going back to the thought of the last shot, because it's like in the arena, it just feels a little different. And like in the arena, you could tell like Reed caught some eyes. It was like he played well. Like he was ready for the moment, even like after hitting he hit that layup, and then Kansas called a timeout, and then like Cal comes up and hugs like Reed for that timeout. I got like a good shot of it. I was like, oh wow. And then like I could see the ref is just like looking at Reed. It's like, the ref, people were looking at Reed. It was like he showed up, like he was ready. That's why I thought, last shot, whatever. We'll retire that part. But I feel like Rob Dillingham, another hot take, might be the best player on the team. I mean, clearly, like he had the opportunity to really go crazy. He got in foul trouble, which was his fault. There were some gambles that he just didn't need to take on defense. Him and DJ both do that. Cal's talked about it. Too many gambles on passes, trying to steal those, turned into a couple extra fouls for Rob. But that blow up was crazy, man. He hit those 4 threes in the span of what, like 3-4 minutes? I mean, it maybe
Yeah.
even less. I mean, it was awesome. And then he hits a layup. Before that, he had a big layup with just his few minutes in the second half, and then he gets in that foul trouble. So, and then he takes the worst shot of the game with 2 minutes left. It was right in front of us when we were shooting that baseline. He tries to do like a couple crossovers, little step back into a long two. It's like, bruh, if we know anything about basketball, it's that why are you taking a long two? That's the last shot you should be taking right now. If you want to chuck up a three, that's fine. You like doing that. You like taking gambles, chucking up shots. Cal said it. As long as he doesn't do 5 or 6 dumb shots, if he just keeps it at 2 or 3, well, it got a little higher than that. And that was a bad shot, man. I mean, you could have done a lot more with that possession. I think the clock was winding down, but that's just a horrible shot. And
What
so
about
I
the
think
range of those shots? Like, man, you're from having the arena going insane, just could not miss 4 straight threes to one of the ugliest shots we've seen in a long time. I think that's what you're gonna get with Rob. I mean, I've said this for a while. He thrives in like that AAU ball, and where you can kind of be me ball, and if I got the hot hand, let me just cross you up and score on you and get all what I need on the stat sheet. And he did when it's working. It was beautiful, like beautiful. And I want to hit on that for just a second, man. I know I'm overreacting on this. I know I am. But after a miserable last few years as a Kentucky fan, and I know that was just 4 threes. It has no matter in the grand scheme of things, but that was so much fun for just a second. I wasn't there to hear the crowd, but on TV, I know, again, I'm overreacting, but I've not been that happy watching a run of Kentucky basketball in years, it feels
and then
like.
he makes a great pass to Antonio, and then Antonio hits one. It's
Oh,
like he could have just heat checked again. Instead, he makes a great pass. That was sweet too.
yeah, dude. And I don't know, that moment, I just want to selfishly, like, that moment, I'll take that one. Like, that was so much fun. Just like felt for a second there, Kentucky basketball is back. And I'm not saying they're not, but that moment, it felt like Kentucky was dominate their opponent, didn't care who they were in front of them. They were dominating them. It was hot, it was fun. Got to see what Rob Dillingham can be in his moments. But then, like you just said, that shot what he had later on in the game was just awful, awful. I thought Cal was going to tear him alive, but Cal's going to give him a little bit more leash. Only a couple of them a game, just not 5 or 6. So again, Rob Dillingham can be our best player in moments. I think for the success of this team, I don't know if we want him as option one, but like again, if he is hot like that, give it to him, and let him do his thing until he flares out. In my opinion.
And we talked about it before, like being the first guy off the bench, coming off the bench isn't a bad thing here at Kentucky,
Yeah.
right? So if he could be that Devin Booker kind of like, just be lethal, that'd be insane. It would take this team to another level because, the DJ just wasn't what he didn't have it tonight and last night. Whenever, really all year, I feel like he's been a little disappointing, and he'll figure it out. Some guys takes a little bit, and that's fine as long as he figures it out by SEC play. Then that's what's important. 4 points, 1 for 12. I didn't even realize he took 12 shots. I mean, that's like, whoa,
It
you know,
sure
in,
didn't
20,
feel like it.
in 25 minutes, it's pretty bad. So I think the best lineup, it's going to depend on the game, right? I think, until the bigs come back, right now it kind of feels like your best lineup, it might be with Reed in there because of his defense too. And then Rob, Antonio, Adu, and Trey. Like maybe Justin and maybe DJ aren't in that. I know it's one game. Justin Edwards, he looked good in the exhibitions, hasn't looked great in these first few. So, I mean, these guys got to take time, and the best lineup's going to change every game probably, which is a beautiful luxury to have.
Oh yeah.
But I think they'll figure it out. It's just now it's just kind of a clock until these bigs come back, and who knows? I mean, Cal hasn't said much. All he said is that Aaron's ahead of Ugana, and then you're just waiting on Big Z for the eligibility, which will happen sometime in the next couple weeks, for that 45-day window that Calipari talked about. But who knows with Aaron and Ugana? I mean, they might not come back till January. Like, who knows? They're not going to say anything. It'd be nice if they come back in a couple weeks, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like Aaron Bradshaw, I'm coming from under the impression of that he'll be back, I thought, quicker than we would think, because Cal said, it was kind of a question, is he going to play in Kansas? I didn't think he'd be ready for Kansas. I'm sure he's not been fully running with the team, all that good stuff. He's behind on that. But it seemed at least, as much as you believe what Cal says, it seemed like there was a chance, like it was just like, is he going to play in this game? And just wait for Cal to say no. And he said no. But then, you know how kids do with social media. Aaron Bradshaw he put like a cryptic message on his Instagram story, like "we back" or something like that. And it for a split second, it looked like, is he gonna like try to play a couple minutes in this game? So I think I'm wondering, from my angle of it, I feel like Bradshaw will be back soon. I don't know anything. That's just a guess. And of course, I think he'll be the first one back. We gotta wait on the Z stuff. I could, in a nice way, I could care less about Ugo. I mean, we'll take him, but he's like the last man on the totem pole because he's not proven himself. He's not expected to be back late to the year. My mind is just wrapped around of we'll take him when we get him, and I expect it to be late in the year, but who knows? I'm just guessing here.
At the end of the day, you really want Aaron, because we know how talented he is, and as I said, the other two bigs aren't really going to score. But to be honest, you don't need scoring from any of them. You kind of just need them to be there and, throw a body at another big because, they got Baycott. Armando Baycott is good, and they're going to face him in less than a month down in Atlanta. And I know he's not 7 foot, but he's a really good rebounder. He's a big body. He's got a lot of experience, just like Hunter. Is Trey Mitchell going to have to play another 39 minutes to guard him? It's like, that's not a recipe for success for any big and all of college basketball to only sit for like 50 seconds. I mean, Trey actually played like 39-10. That's too much. And it's just not going to, be a recipe for success, in some big games.
Yeah, the difference with the big man versus the guard, I mean, if you sit there and watch, the big men are down there fighting the whole time, getting the feet position. They're not just standing out, passing me the ball at the three. They are working their asses off. So for them to play 39 minutes versus like a guard playing 39 minutes, it's two different games. So that's a good point that you bring up. 39 minutes for a big man is not what you want at all.
And he's doing well. I mean, he had a good start. He knocked down that three because Hunter just like didn't there was no respect there. Hunter just sagged way off, and I could even see while I was shooting it, like Rob's face. He was like, "Really?" And then just throws it right to Trey, and Trey buried it. I was like, "You're really leaving that guy open? Like, he's not a regular big that like clearly can't shoot. Like Trey's clearly proven that he can knock down threes." So I was a little surprised at that, and I was a little surprised that they didn't, give him another look from three. That was his only three. He was only 2 for 4. I know he had a lot of responsibility. So, and there's only one basketball. These guys were chuck. I mean, 76 shots is just crazy,
Yeah,
and
how much
like
was
38 threes. That's the most that a Cal team has ever shot
Wow.
in terms of threes, and it might be for field goals too. It's got to be up there. 76 shots, a lot of shots.
I didn't realize it was that much. So like you just said, you were right there under the goal shooting the game. So you got to see up close Trey Mitchell fighting for his life against Hunter Dickinson. Do you have any takeaways on you seeing that right there that the camera just can't pick up on TV of him? Was he really struggling as bad as we thought, or was he holding his own as much as he possibly could, or what was that like being right there closer than anyone?
Yeah, I mean, he struggled, but really, a lot of guys would have struggled.
Yeah.
They were able to cover it up because they crashed. I mean, all the guards would crash right when Hunter got it. Adu would crash, Justin would crash. DJ, whatever it was, they were feeding. They were trying to get Hunter a lot of looks in that first half. They were even like trying too hard. Some of those passes were like hitting the rim, like with
Yeah.
those inlet passes. And it was like, wow, they're forcing the ball to Hunter right now, as they should, right? He's a National Player of the Year candidate, and he deserves it. But I thought the defense played pretty well on that, and then Kansas kind of made an adjustment and just kind of ditched it. They didn't like feed Hunter as much. They switched to more pick and rolls, and the UK just could not guard the pick and roll whatsoever. I mean, that there were like 4 or 5 alley oops off pick and rolls, just like uncontested, just like huge alley oops that got the Kansas crowd back in it. And then you had Harris, like Barry triples, and like Edwards, man. I don't know what the scouting report was, because Edwards sagged off like multiple times, giving Harris wide open threes. It's like, guys, Kansas doesn't have shooters like that. I mean, like Grady Dick and like they don't have a whole like 5 of shooters like they used to. Like Hunter showed that he could hit one, and then it was just Harris, and that's it. I mean, like Adams, 0 for 1. Like the McCullers, like we knew these guys can't shoot. Besides, I guess like Timberlake can shoot, but didn't do it. Braun maybe. Like nobody was shooting besides Harris. Like play up on Harris, let the other guys kill you. There was one, they swung it around in that second half, and Edwards, like it was just it was like a bad rotation, and it was Adams or somebody, Jackson maybe, in the corner, and Harris gets it on the wing, and Edwards is like already anticipating the pass to the corner and just darts right to the corner and leaves Harris wide open. It's like, no, you got to respect Harris. You got to make Harris pass that up. That should have been scouting. So that's a little bit coaching too, and just the players not realizing the flow of the game, being like, there's only 2 guys right now that are actually like getting buckets, and that's Harris and Dickinson. Those are the only guys that can like go out there and get a bucket on their own. Lock it on them, make the other guys beat you, and they just didn't. They let the paint wide open, and like the crowd erupted with all those dunks, and even not just the dunks. Like Hunter, they gave it to Trey. It was one of the few times it was Hunter Trey one-on-one. Like they didn't send help, and like Hunter spun baseline, and it was just like a gimme late in the game. So yeah, Trey struggled. Anyone would have struggled. They did a good job crashing early, and the adjustments just weren't quite there.
Yeah, that Justin Edwards play that you're talking about, where Harris faked him out, they put a slow motion video of that on right up on it, like completely spotlighted it on the TV broadcast. And you think, he's a guy that's having the hot hand. Why, take your chances, guard him. Don't just think he's going to pass it. Let the other guy take a chance. This guy went for 25 plus, and he's averaging like a point or 2 a game. He had the hot hand. He's clearly the guy that you need to take your chances with. So that was another mistake, freshman learning, but you've got to try not to have limited of these mistakes if you're going to win these big games.
Yeah, that's funny that they showcase that. I want to go back and watch the broadcast, because it's just different when you're like, as you know, and producer Tim knows, it's just different down there on the floor. You see more, but you also don't see some stuff. So I want to go back and watch the broadcast. But just like, to wrap it up, I'm impressed with the team. I think they're good. They could have got smoked by like 20, and there would have been no excuses, right? You're down a big. You played the best big in the country, number 1 team. They fought, as Cal said. They look good, man. I'm not a UK fan. I'm just covering this team, but I do like this team. They're fun to watch. They're way more fun to watch than the last 2 years. So, I'm excited. I think they're going to grow a lot. They'll be ready by SEC play, but Miami's not an easy game. That's the next big one in a couple weeks, and then you got North Carolina. So they gotta grow up quick.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaving this game optimistic as can be. Like I'm really excited about this team. I did not expect us to win this. Kind of at the day of the game, I started to talk myself into it. I think we definitely could have, but I wasn't predicting it. And then you got to think about Kentucky had no height. They had the National Player of the Year candidate, Hunter Dickinson. They were going to get exposed down low if everything went just right to the plan. I thought the way we beat them was with our guard play. Then you add on top of that our two of our best guards, Justin Edwards, DJ Wagner, were a no-show. So you add that to the scenario. Then their guy that you don't expect to be a factor, Dewan Harris, went for a 25 plus. You add that on top of that, and Kentucky still had a chance to win this game. After all that being said, Kentucky could have lost, like you said, 15, 20 points, and they didn't. They were up 14 at one point. I think a couple of things real quickly just go into that is, they would have went halftime double digits if Hunter Dickinson didn't have hit that buzzer beater right before half to cut it down to like 7 or 8. They started the game off down 9-0, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think the last few minutes they went on like 11-1 or 11-3 run. So like that middle, beginning of the end, Kansas just, that's probably at 7 or 8 minutes total of basketball that Kentucky just kind of just collapsed on. And, that's a small chunk of the game, man. They could have won that game with all of everything I just said that played into it. They still could have won that game. So I definitely think this is a good team. You just got to learn how to finish. You got to have the expectations from your starters and your core players to play the way they should. And I just, on to the next one. What can you do? It's the number one team. They fought their asses off. They had a chance to win that. They probably should have, but they didn't. So what can you do? They lost by 5.
They'll get a good one on Friday. Just cruise the little 30-point win, and get their feet back under them. They'll be fine.
Yeah, hopefully in these smaller games that are coming up while they're getting prepared for Miami, I want to see a little bit more aggression from DJ Wagner, Justin Edwards too. I mean, he's had plenty of aggression, but like we need to see it on the stat sheet from the guys who need to be scoring and not just rely on a spark off the bench, a dude the arrow coming off the bench to have a great night, Reed having 3 threes to make this game close. I don't know. I want to see a little bit more aggression of the guys that should be playing well. But we'll see it. It's early. Freshmen, 3 games down. We got plenty of time, man.
It'll be fun, man. Champions Classic, always fun though. Whatever you say, if it's not good for UK, but I love it, man. It's a great event. That was my 4th time covering it in person. Great event, man. College basketball's back. Feels good.
Yes, sir. So we'll be back next week sometime. We're gonna probably recap I think they play Stonehill. I don't know if there's another game between that, but we'll be back at this next week. And hope you all listen. Check out Michael and his work with Fox 56. We'll be on the Field of 68 network, catscoverage.com. Doing our thing. Thanks for supporting us. We got to kind of stand up for Kentucky with this basketball podcast. So we're going to do the best that we can, but we won't be homers. At least I will try not to be. We'll try to be fair and honest and assert things as they come. But Michael, you got any last words from you, man?
That man, just got to keep grinding. But I like this team. They're a good team, and freshmen are going to shine. I just got to see Rob take over a few more games, and that dude is special. That dude, is lottery for sure. Could be high lottery.
Maybe so, man. Who knows?
He's just got to reel it in, grow up a little bit, figure out the flow of the game, take less gambles. But that's part of his game, as you said. So he's a fun player, man.
Yes. Well, thank you,